Topic number one of the conversation right here, right now, and it goes to this Alabama defense, in particular, Christian Barmore. Can this Ohio State offensive line hold Christian Barmore from affecting Justin Fields in the pocket? Can this Ohio State offensive line hold Christian Barmore, from getting to Justin Fields, sacking Justin Fields, creating pressure to Fields, flushing him out of the pocket, making him feel highly uncomfortable in his decision-making, going through his progressions in this matchup against the Crimson Tide? Is this a game where Christian Barmore can just really, truly wreak havoc on this Ohio State offensive front? And the reason why I bring the question up is, Justin Fields has had a good season this year. He's had a good year, despite the fact that Ohio State's only played in 7 games. Fields, over 1,900 yards passing, 316 yards rushing. He's got 26 total touchdowns, 21 passing, 5 rushing, 6 interceptions. But the reason why I bring the question up is the offensive line for Ohio State has had the most difficult time protecting Fields in the pocket. For someone who's played in the least amount of games of the 4 quarterbacks in the CFP, when you discuss Mac Jones, who's played in 12 games, you look at Ian Book of Notre Dame, who played in 12 games, Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, who's played in 10 games. Justin Fields has played only 7. So for a guy that's played in the least amount of games of the quarterbacks in the playoff, he's been sacked almost the most amount of times. Justin Fields has been sacked 20 times this season. This offensive line has had a difficult time trying to keep him clean in the pocket, and whether it's tried to use a tight end for max protection or have a running back chip in and help block, nothing has worked to keep Fields clean. Nothing has worked to keep Fields protected. Nothing has worked to keep Fields, not on the ground in terms of playing the quarterback position. And if you go back and you watch the film, just in games against Indiana and Northwestern, those two right there, 8 of the 20 sacks to Fields have come against combined Indiana and Northwestern. Indiana got to him 5 times, sacked him 5 times. Northwestern sacked him 3 times in the Big Ten title game. And when both of those teams have been able to get pressure to him, it's resulted in 5 interceptions combined for both of those teams. So 5 of the 6 picks for Fields have come against the likes of the Indiana Hoosiers and Northwestern. So when you dive into this matchup against Alabama, and more than likely Christian Barmore here, he's playing his best football of the season. Christian Barmore's playing his best ball right now. The 6'5", 310-pounder from Philadelphia. Barmore, 32 tackles on the season, 7.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 6 quarterback hurries, 3 pass breakups, and 3 forced fumbles. Now, the 7 sacks that Barmore has, he is tied with Will Anderson for the team lead and for the SEC lead. And since the Georgia game, since the matchup against the Bulldogs, week 4, the 4th game of the season for Alabama, Barmore, 6 sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hurries, 3 pass breakups, and 3 forced fumbles. So the young man has been on an absolute tear since the Georgia game. No one's been able to defend him. No one's been able to neutralize him. No one's been able to block him. No one's been able to keep him away from its respective quarterback. He has been a menace on the defensive line. Christian Barmore has. And I remember speaking to DJ Dale this week on Thursday. He took part in media viewing one of about 5 to 6 defensive players. And the question I addressed to Dale was, is it some type of switch that Barmore's able to turn on? Like, what makes him so good? What makes him so dynamic? What makes him so fierce? What makes him so energetic along that defensive line? Because, of course, no Tide fans, you guys remember in 2019, when he set foot on the field, even in limited action, and was able to produce. A lot of you guys were like, why is he not starting? Why is Barmore not on the field more? He's all over the quarterback. He's all over the running back. He's creating negative plays in the backfield. He's forcing turnovers. Why is Nick Saban not putting Big 58 on the field more as a starter? And he's playing more now. He made the first team. He made first team All SEC. But I addressed the question to DJ Dale: is there a switch that Barmore flips on? What makes him so different? And he's like, Steven, there is no switch. This is just who he is. It's just simply who he is. He believes no one can stop him. No one can affect him. No one can neutralize him. No one can keep him away from the quarterback. That's just the type of guy that he is. He's a pure beast, pure animal, pure monster. He feels like it doesn't matter who you line up in front of me, whether it's a center, whether it's an offensive guard, whether it's an offensive tackle, I'm getting to the quarterback. That's the mindset that Christian Barmore has, according to one DJ Dale. And ever since the Georgia game, he has been on an absolute tear this season. So Ohio State's offensive front is going to have its hands full dealing with this young man coming off the ball, exploding off the ball from the middle of that defensive interior. When you talk about getting to Justin Fields, putting him on the ground, roughing him up a little bit, making it very frustrating for him to make plays. Now, in the event that Ohio State, that the Buckeyes are able to have some success in maybe doubling Barmore, now you open up the dynamic duo at outside linebacker in Will Anderson and Christopher Allen. Both of these two have had big success this season sacking the quarterback. Both of these two have had big success this season getting to the opposing team's passing game. 29 of Alabama's 34 sacks here. That's about 85.3%. 29 of Alabama's 34 sacks have come since the Georgia game. And when you look at Will Anderson, 7 sacks for him. Once again, tied with Barmore for the SEC lead and for the lead in terms of Alabama's roster. Christopher Allen has 6 sacks to his credit, and he's kind of been the unsung hero of the pass rush. Finally healthy, finally good to go, finally at peak power, finally at peak strength, and we have seen it all year. Number 4, exploding off the snap of the ball, working the pass rush moves, whether it's a spin move, a bull rush, a club rush, but getting to the opposing team's quarterback, creating those sacks, getting those negative plays. So for Ohio State, regardless of how dynamic Justin Fields has been, regardless of how much of a dual threat quarterback that he is, he's played in 7 games and he's been sacked almost the most times by any quarterback in the college football playoff, which that's interesting how Ian Book has been sacked the most, 25 times this season, but he's played in 5 more games than Fields, and Fields is regarded as way more of a dual threat quarterback than Book is, but it goes back to the struggles Ohio State's offensive line they've had all season. They have not been able to keep Fields clean. They've not been able to keep Fields from being on the ground. They've not been able to keep Fields from taking a lot of these big hits. And when you're facing an Alabama defense that, once again, pass rush has hit at the right time. Pass rush has been clicking at the right time. Alabama's been able to hit home and get these sacks. And it's not just with Barmore, Anderson, and Chris Allen, but you also have to look at Christian Harris, of whom Alabama has been using more from the blitzing aspect, even as an inside linebacker, as a weak side backer. Christian Harris this season, 4.5 sacks to his credit. He's got about 6 to 7 quarterback hurries as well to his disposal. So Alabama's got a multitude. They got multiple guys that can get out for the quarterback, but because of the tear Christian Barmore has been this entire season, this is setting up for him to be a game up front where he can harass Fields, from the middle interior of that defensive front. Looking forward to seeing what he does in this match. Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.